So I got a job with the Federation, to remember it was Nova Scotia Heritage, but it was known then as the Federation of Museums, Heritage. They didn't get the archival people in.
Okay.
They didn't speak up loud enough. Anyway, the name was about that long.
Okay.
And so in the end they changed it to Federation of Heritage, Nova Scotia Heritage.
Okay.
And I worked with them for just short of 17 years, setting up that organisation and travelling around the province. And it was very, very interesting because I got to know, I did know an awful lot of the province, but I didn't have the contact with the people. And when the people came to conferences in Halifax or wherever they wanted them, we didn't have them all in Halifax by a long shot, they were always a little bit hesitant about getting up and saying too much, you know, because, well, the Nova Scotia Museum people were there and they were their bosses. They were a little bit quiet. But if you went to visit them in their own museums and in their own towns, you really learnt what was going on for them. Nothing nasty or anything malicious, anything like that, but you got the other side of what their problems really were. And you could also look around and you could see, they want this, but they should have X as well. You could see what they lacked and what they needed, so that you could develop programs that would eventually cover these things. There were 8 federations in this whole group, and there was the Writers' Federation, the art people, and the multiculturalism, and the dance, Nova Scotia, and the heritage, and I've forgotten what the other ones were.
Okay.
And so it was up to me to work with the board and develop kind of what they wanted or what they thought should be done, and you know, and if they liked what I suggested, it was done, and if they didn't like it, they would say so. It was very nice working in the beginning because these people were historians and archivists themselves, and they understood, you know, we were speaking the same language. Basically, the main funding came from the provincial government.
Okay.
And anything else we needed, we had to make up ourselves, whichever way we could figure out. And sometimes the board was good at that. They were the ones who were meant to raise the funds, and sometimes it was me to find out where the grants were, you know, the usual sort of thing. So those were all methods of trying to get people together and talk to each other. And that's really what a lot of them wanted, to know who had the same problems as themselves and how did they solve them, and how did people in Parsborough manage with a building that they didn't have. They were going to have the beautiful post office, but the money never came through, so they didn't have it. You know, things like that, and they could talk to each other about all sorts of things that were problems to them, and some people had solved them, some people didn't know how to solve them. And of course the Nova Scotia Museum worked with them on a separate basis. They were very much the resource people for me, the museum people, to come and give workshops and things like that. Oh, we had quite a lot of members, you know, it grew. We would have 50 or 60 different groups, and then it would perhaps be a bit more than that. To bring people together and to find out what their needs were, and then try and meet those needs, which is quite a big thing to tackle. Cape Breton was interesting. It was more political. It was more important that I went and was seen to be there than in a lot of other places, because they were an island, they were sort of cut off and things. I probably travelled more to Cape Breton than any other part of the province, which was fine because I always enjoyed it. It was always fun. But people were very scattered around and they didn't really come together very often. So that if we had a conference in Cape Breton, it was important that everybody could get there. And one of the people I remember very well was Bob Morgan. The other person who I realised I'd never met, but I realised was obviously an influence there, was Jim St. Clair. I hunted him down through telephones and back roads and directions and met him, and he was very helpful, you know, and obviously a person that you wanted to keep in touch with. I needed to keep in touch with, because he knew a lot about what was going on. Fairly soon after, a year or so after getting to know Cape Breton, that one realised there was a need for their own, not a break away from the Federation, but their own small group that they could, you know, call people together when they wanted to. And that's, of course, the beginning of the Iona Connection. I think the Iona Connection was a very good idea, because they could then control what they wanted to do, and they could feed it back into the Federation. And Jim St. Clair was on the board of the Federation. And he used to come down in all weather, all year round, to all the meetings. He never missed them. And you know, you feel like phoning up and saying, "Don't come in this weather, Mount Tom is terrible, just stay where you are and we'll let you know." But he was always there, and he would always come, and he was always very, very helpful. And I think slowly over the years one could see that Cape Breton was sort of starting to talk more to each other, and each thing was growing, particularly the Highland Village was growing to be a bigger sort of thing than it was. Cape Breton, it was a lovely, beautiful province to visit, and I liked the people very, very much. And one knew one was in a different world as soon as you come across the causeway.